Today we're diving deep into the often turbulent career of Joy Reid. From her humble beginnings to her primetime slot on msnbc, Reid has been a prominent and often polarizing voice on the left. Now, before anyone starts yelling in the comments, let's be clear, this isn't about celebrating someone's downfall. It's about critically examining the words and actions of public figures, especially when those words directly impact discussions about race, identity, and the political landscape. We're here to analyze, not to assassinate. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's get into it. Joy Reid's journey at msnbc has been nothing short of eventful. Starting in 2011, she gradually rose through the ranks, eventually landing her own weekend show, AM Joy, in 2016. This platform allowed her to become a key commentator, particularly for those aligned with left-leaning perspectives. However, her ascent hasn't been without significant turbulence. Reid has weathered numerous controversies, and it's these specific instances that we're going to dissect today. It's important to remember that the media landscape is a battlefield, and every word, every tweet, every on-air comment is scrutinized. Reid, as a prominent figure, has been under constant surveillance, and some of her moments have sparked national debate. The goal here is to provide context, examine the specific situations, and discuss the broader implications. Alright, let's dive into what I'm calling the 7 Cringiest Moments compilation. These are the instances that, in my opinion, caused the most significant backlash and raised legitimate questions about Reid's judgment and consistency. Controversial blog posts. The Ghost of the Reid Report. Back in 2017, the internet did what it does best. Unearthed old skeletons. In this case, it was a series of posts from Reid's blog, The Reid Report, containing some rather harsh opinions on topics like gay marriage and men kissing. The initial response was denial, with Reid claiming she'd been hacked. Eventually, she issued an apology, but the damage was done. This moment is cringy not just for the content of the posts themselves, but for the initial denial and the subsequent backtracking. It raises questions about authenticity and whether public figures are truly held accountable for their past statements. COVID vaccine comments. Mocking the badge. In 2020, as the COVID-19 pandemic raged, Reid decided to single out police officers who were hesitant to get vaccinated. She accused them of fighting to make the public sick. While promoting public health is a noble goal, singling out an entire profession and essentially mocking their concerns is problematic. This moment is cringy because it felt like a cheap shot, especially given this already strained relationship between law enforcement and many communities. Hurricane Ian and immigration, comparing apples and oranges. When Hurricane Ian devastated Florida, Reid made a rather bizarre comparison between Floridians fleeing the storm and illegal immigrants crossing the U.S. border. This comparison sparked outrage, with many accusing her of minimizing the suffering of hurricane victims and using the tragedy to push a political agenda. This moment is cringy because it felt deeply insensitive and showed a lack of empathy for those who were literally fighting for their lives. Racial animus accusations, painting with a broad brush. In 2024, Reid made a sweeping generalization, claiming that Republicans were voting based on racial animus. She attributed this to the idea of a brown people invasion. Accusing a large segment of the population of being motivated by racism is a serious charge, and one that requires more than just anecdotal evidence. This moment is cringy because it felt like a lazy attempt to demonize an entire political party and shut down any meaningful discussion. White Christians and Trump, us versus them. Leading up to Trump's potential second term, Reid went after white Christians who supported him, suggesting they believed the country belonged only to them and that non-white, non-conservative Christians were fraudulent Americans. This kind of divisive rhetoric, pitting one group against another based on race and religion, is incredibly dangerous. This moment is cringy because it felt like a blatant attempt to stoke division and fear rather than fostering understanding and dialogue. Kamala Harris and black voters, the pressure to conform. Reid took to TikTok to suggest that black people would look real crazy for not voting for Kamala Harris, implying that an entire demographic should vote a certain way based solely on their race. Is not only condescending but also undermines the agency and individuality of black voters. This moment is cringy because it reinforces harmful stereotypes and suggests that black people are a monolithic voting bloc. Thanksgiving dinner debate, political cleansing. Reid suggested that Harris voters should avoid Thanksgiving dinner with their Trump-supporting relatives, advising them to make your own dinner and leave us alone. While everyone has the right to choose their holiday companions, actively encouraging families to separate along political lines is a recipe for societal disaster. This moment is cringy because it promotes division and intolerance within families, the very foundation of our society. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the perceived hypocrisy. Reid has frequently presented herself as an advocate for marginalized communities and a voice against intolerance. So, when she makes statements that are perceived as insensitive, divisive, or even prejudiced, it understandably raises eyebrows. Is it a double standard? Is it fair to hold her to a higher level of accountability given her platform and political stance? These are essential questions that demand honest answers. It's crucial to acknowledge that Reid isn't alone in facing scrutiny for past remarks. The internet has a long memory, and we are all capable of evolving and learning from our mistakes. However, when you occupy the public sphere, these errors are amplified, and you must be willing to address them. The question then becomes, has Reid adequately addressed these controversies? Has she demonstrated genuine remorse and a commitment to learning from her missteps? Or has she simply offered perfunctory apologies while continuing to engage in similar behavior? Furthermore, it's worth considering the broader context of cable news. Is Reid simply a product of a system that rewards inflammatory rhetoric and partisan bickering? Or does she bear individual responsibility for the words she chooses to use? These are complex issues with no easy answers, but they are essential to understanding the full picture. While the precise impact of these controversies is open to debate, Reid's show did experience a noticeable decline in viewership. Following a leadership transition at MSNBC, her show was ultimately cancelled. This serves as a stark reminder that in the fiercely competitive world of cable news, ratings are paramount, and controversy doesn't always translate into success. According to the source, Reid, who had a $3 million salary, had lost half of her viewers. MSNBC also had a 53% drop in primetime viewership. The cancellation of the show happened about a month after Rebecca Cutler became the network president. In January 2025, Donald Trump, never one to miss an opportunity to gloat, wasted no time in celebrating Reid's firing. He took to his Truth Social platform to declare that MSNBC should be punished for the unpardonable sin it had committed against the country. He also described Reid as one of the least talented people in television and a mentally obnoxious racist. While Trump's comments are hardly surprising, they do highlight the highly polarized environment in which these media figures operate. So what's the ultimate takeaway from all of this? Joy Reid's story is multifaceted. She's a talented broadcaster who has undoubtedly left her mark on cable news. Yet she's also someone who has stumbled, committed errors, and faced considerable criticism. It's a reminder that no one is infallible, and that we must all be conscious of the words we use and the impact they can have on others. The issues that Reid covered, race, identity, and politics, are difficult. These issues require careful discussion. Ultimately, the legacy of Joy Reid's time at MSNBC will be one of both achievement and controversy. It's a story that deserves our attention, not because we revel in someone's misfortune, but because it offers valuable insights into the complexities of media, politics, and the ongoing struggle for a more just and equitable society.
So for putting Americans in danger, officers and unions who are fighting against vaccine mandates, which essentially means fighting to make the public sick, are tonight's absolute worst. Be careful about attacking people who have to move to save their own lives and safety, because you never know when it's your people that have to move, when it's your people who have to migrate, when it's your people who have to get on that road. They're increasingly, from the Tea Party on, they're voting on race. They're voting on this idea of an invasion of brown people over the border. The idea that they can't get whatever job they want. A black person got it, therefore drive all the blacks out of the colleges. None of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not a white conservative Christian is a fraudulent American.
You're gonna look real crazy being on the other side of that line particularly as a person of color, but really as anyone who claims to have any connection to the culture.
Well, here's an alternative thought. Make your own dinner, MAGA. Make your own sandwiches. Wipe your own tears. Troll amongst yourselves with Elon and leave us alone.
He has also openly celebrated Reid's firing, describing her as one of the least talented people in television and as a mentally obnoxious racist.